Cool. So I'm going to hand it over to Elliot, who's going to do a little intro and then kick it all off for us.
Well, hello, everyone. I am so honored to be here today and to be talking with you, Glenn. I speak for myself, as I'm sure everyone who's joined, and so many more, that you are so deeply inspiring. Your music, your artistry, your innovation, and also just who you are as a person, and the wisdom, the love, and the kindness that you've offered so many. And I'm so thrilled to be talking to you today about your stunning new album, The Ones Ahead. I'm like your work before, and you continue to create such beautiful sounds and emotion and strength and hope in so many ways as well in this time. And at that, I think, why not start at the title, actually, The Ones Ahead. What's that meaning to you in terms of naming this project that?
Well, just first, let me say hello and thank you for
yes.
so
Sure.
So kind. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about The Ones Ahead. The title of this album refers to two things: the generations to come and those in the unseen world that guide us. So let me break this down a little. My personal guidance comes through my daily Soka Gakkai Buddhist practice. This is how I touch base with the energy of what I call the universal broadcasting system, the unseen world that guides us. Here, I hear the call to show up for the generations younger than me and the ones yet to come. To all of you who must make your lives in these very difficult times, I want you to know, my reason for being here is to provide you with encouragement, to shine a light wherever I can. In the song entitled The Ones Ahead, the ancestors speak through the song. Quote, "This world is our combined imagination. Your life, a precious personal creation." Each life is so precious. And if I were to name a central issue in the current crisis we face, it is the crisis of imagination. We won't solve the problems that face us with the same level of thinking that got us here. And this is where we artists come in. We disturb the soil and break the consumer trance. The song goes on to say, each of us to others is connected. If one of us is lost, we're all affected, quote unquote. And that, Elliot, is the truth. I'm here to play my part in the web of life, to do whatever I can for the ones ahead.
Well, I'd say, Stand Anthem is very much in line with all of those things you're speaking to in regards to this record, and it feels very much like a song for our time. Could you speak more about the genesis of that song and writing that song?
Hey, yes, I can. To understand how the song came to be, I need to give you a bit of backstory. Elizabeth and I began as creative collaborators. In the mid-90s, she sang backup for me in concerts. She invited me to participate in shows she was producing, most of them for social justice causes. We got together as a couple in 2007, and the collaborations continued in Ontario. Then, once we moved east, we collaborated in a multitude of artist residencies. While on the Acadian coast, We founded and ran a theater school, and there we used our combined skills in music and theater to build community, which was the central part of our shared vision. Back to the song. In 2017, I was collaborating with her on a workshop of an eco play she had written and produced. One day she came to me asking me to write, quote, a rousing song that touches on all the themes in the play, unquote. She said, I want to leave the audience with a knowing of our collective power. She handed me a sheet of paper with a draft of lyrics and a chorus that led with Stand. The song evolved from there, Elliot.
Mm.
Yeah. Stand Anthem, just a sec, is definitely a song for our times with its own unique mission. It has an emphasis on percussion meant to wake us up and to emphasize what the ones ahead and the Earth Mother herself need us to understand. The old world is dying and a new one is waiting to be born. All of us are needed to midwife this new world into being.
It's beautiful. And another song on the new record that's very profound is Love Takes All. And a journalist referred to it as a song about lovers, but maybe you could say, what does that song mean to you?
Well, it's definitely a song about love, but not so much about personal love. For me, this song is about really coming to terms with my own health. With my own death. I guess I didn't want to say that word, eh? But there we go, with my own death. I wrote it in the year following the passing of a beloved friend who approached her death with such grace. It was a holy event. I was asked to do the eulogy at her memorial. The ripples of this holy death could be felt so powerfully. It stopped me in my tracks to think of it even now. Death is a birth into another world, and the great force that is love is what carries us all.
Well, I want to congratulate you on honors recently bestowed. We have and so I can get it right here, I'm going to quote the 2023 Sage Award for leveraging your artistry as a composer and singer to uplift and inspire for over 5 decades, and for living his truth as a trans man, especially during times when transgender people have been relegated to the sidelines. You also received an honorary doctorate of laws from the University of Toronto for your profound musical gifts, and your resolute advocacy on behalf of Black, Indigenous, and LGBTQ2S+ communities. Could you maybe tell me about what living your truth and enacting this resolute advocacy has looked like over the years?
American mystic and poet Thomas Merton said, everyone has a vocation to be someone, but must understand that in order to fulfill this vocation, they can only be one person, themselves. This understanding is at the heart of my advocacy for the choices I made in my life. In 1947, I told my mom I was a boy. I was 3. My poor mom, she didn't know what to do. These were the days when to be anything other than heteronormative was considered a form of deviance, an out-and-out crime. At puberty, my differentness began to show itself again. My mother was understandably frightened. I was young and Black in an America where the Ku Klux Klan was still very much alive. My proud Cherokee grandmother knew to keep her head down And so I came to learn that who I really was had to be hidden. But by the time I had crossed the border to attend McGill University in 1961, that self would no longer be denied. My advocacy at McGill showed itself as a dogged commitment to be no one other than myself. Being openly gay on a campus where I was already othered as one of the very few Black people, I paid a price. Apart from my girlfriend, I was essentially friendless. The associate dean tried to have me expelled. I ended up leaving McGill after only 3 years. So I picked up a guitar, figured out how to play it, and began to write songs. These songs drew on a multitude of traditions that would allow me my essential self, a voice. I know my career trajectory would have been profoundly different if I had been willing to put on a skirt and makeup, but I simply had to be myself. And from reading your book, I know how much you understand what I am saying.
Yeah, I that's so well put and said. And I wanted to also talk to you about, I've heard you, it's said on a very basic level that you consider yourself a percussionist, and that decades ago you used to play with an amazing djembe player, Dido, who studied in West Africa, and that the song Africa Calling is actually a full out calling from your West African roots. Could you talk more about that?
Yes, I was Dido. When I saw Dido in a concert, I was stunned. He was playing 5 djembes at the same time, and I understood that, you know, he actually went to Africa to study. But in that moment, hearing him, you know, I really came to understand that the djembe, that a drum, was the basic and most important of West African culture. And interestingly enough, we think, oh, the drum is the most important thing, but actually, in that culture, the women are the most important thing. So they dance, and the men accompany them. That's not well known. But anyway, so it was a thrill for me to just be able to play the djembe and learn how to play it. Yeah.
Amazing. So at this point, Glenn has a couple of questions for Elliot. So Glenn, if you'd like to take it away.
Yeah. Okay, so here's my question for Elliot. Elizabeth and I deeply appreciate the personal copy of your memoir, Pageboy. Both of us are deeply moved. The quality of your writing, your vulnerability, your profound insights. I was honored that you opened the book with a few lines from A Song and Many Moons from Primal Prayer. Can you tell me why you chose that particular quote, Elliot?
Yeah, well, thank you so much for letting me use those words. It really was an honor to be able to have that in the book. And I guess the quote, for maybe if people aren't aware, is oh my God, am I gonna say it wrong? The world has many ends, and beginnings. Something ends, will something remain? I'm like, oh no, I don't want to say it wrong.
Oh,
The cycle.
the cycle ends.
Like,
Will
and will
something
something
remain?
remain? A spark, one so bright, will bloom again. It that moved me so deeply because, you know, and perhaps it's not even remotely what you like meant with it, you know, which is always funny because we're individually putting our meaning on songs and or moments in songs. But for me, I just deeply related to it because I felt that once at a certain point, there was this certain spark that I had, a certain sense of knowing that I had when I was deeply young, which I think of like moments when you're referring to as saying when you were 3, you know, I'm a boy, and talking to your mother about that, and just these deep sparks of really knowing who you are and feeling alive. And I felt like so much of that spark was lost, and life takes us on our journey. And then finally I was able to find that spark again, and that feeling of being truly alive. And yeah, it just, yeah, it means so much to me that starts the book.
Well, thank you so much, Elliot. When I got the copy of the book and I saw that in the front, I fell out, literally. I just went, what? What? This amazing meeting is what this is about, this book, right? And so anyway, so thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
So I just have one more. For me, as a trans man, I was struck by the many parallels between our lives, despite the differences in the times. It breaks my heart that once again, hard-earned trans rights are being clawed back, and in frightening ways. Can we talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. You want to start?
Gosh. Yeah, I mean, it's a time that is there's no way around it. It's definitely a scary time with an inundation of awful rhetoric and lies about our lives, and obviously legislation and laws being pushed or passed. And it's definitely a time where we all need to come together and act and do what we can to, you know, support one another. And yeah, what are your thoughts on?
You know, I mean, the thing that actually stuns me the most, and there's so many. I mean, it's. I mean, I'm not too surprised about the LGBTQ plus everything part, but when I saw that women were not allowed to decide whether or not they would have a child, even if it meant their lives were at stake, like the young woman who had the uterus. It wasn't in her uterus. It was in her fallopian tube. You know, yeah. What do you call that? An ectopic pregnancy. Ectopic pregnancy. I was just like crying. It's just, I'm crying right now when I think about it. It's untenable, and the fact that, you know, people feel free to shoot people who are different in some way, whatever they define as different, is just like outrageous. And there's so many people that are kooky, you know, they're not even in their right minds. I mean, there are those who are deliberately doing, but there are those who are just plain not okay. And they can all purchase rifles. Oh, that's really easy, right? Anyway, that's my, yeah, that's my 24 cents. Yeah. Yeah. Pretty difficult.
Unless Elliot, you had anything else you wanted to add to that, I think this is the sort of point in which we're going to move to some of the fan submitted questions. So as I said, I'll be posing these to both Glenn and Elliot. So the first one again, and this is to both of you, I guess, is where and how have you found community and joy while living in Canada? I think a lot of young people now are struggling to find real and true communities on the heels of the pandemic, and also growing up on the internet where there's still a lot of homophobia and racism. What is your advice to them?
You want to start, Elliot?
Well, I guess I should say I don't really live in Canada anymore. I happen to be in Canada right now, actually, but I grew up in Canada and spend a lot of time there. But for me, in my experience of finding community, I mean, it's sometimes one of those things that's definitely easier said than done. I mean, I rely on my friends, in particular my trans friends, very, very much, you know, especially with everything going on that we were just talking about, and the intensity of that, the impact that that's having, I know on, I think, so many of us. And those connections have meant the world for me. The world to me, they've been completely, you know, life-changing. And in ways to access that, I think what's tricky is when people can't, you know, find it in an immediate physical space. It does mean the internet, which comes with those certain awful parts of the internet, but I still, that is a way that you can connect with people, you know. And in moments of isolation that I've experienced in my life, I do know that representation has been such a massive help and inspiration and companion. So, you know, seeking out, whether it's books by other trans or queer people or music or what have you, has been a very positive part of my life. But I do think the internet, whether it's, you know, finding people on the internet or finding various groups, is there something you're interested in? Perhaps there's like a trans and queer group that is just focused on that, whether bird watching or rock climbing or whatever it could be, you know. But I don't know if I'm giving the best advice right now, but I grew up, I didn't have a lot of queer community growing up, but I definitely I'm lucky to now. But how about you, Glenn?
Yeah, you know, for me, I have a queer community, and that's very important. But I also have so many heterosexual friends who feel that they are part of a community because we're all facing the same thing. The clawback, it does not, you know, it's not limited to being, you know, a person of a particular race or a particular lifestyle or whatever. So, you know, I'm you know, I really say to people, just find people who care for you and who have the same goals, and create community with them. And they're all around us, right? They really are. So that's my answer. Yeah.
Thank you both. I think we have time for another question. So, how has nature and the human world impacted and supported your creative process? Glenn, did you want to start with that one, or?
Yeah. So, you know, many people can write in cities, right? And I suppose I could too, right? But in most of my life, being in the wilds, being close to nature, seeing little creatures and big creatures running around has been so inspirational for me. I just feel like I'm home. I'm home when I'm in the woods or living in a place where that has, you know, the quote natural environment happening. And of course, you know, I mean, it's a little less what we've done to the earth is a little difficult, but it's not a little difficult, it's a lot difficult. But that for me has been really, really important in my life. So yeah, that's, wonderful people and nature, little creatures and um, things that are bigger running about, right? I love that, like, what do you call it, deer who come and eat our gardens, for instance. Before we can get Elizabeth is an amazing gardener, so she makes all these wonderful gardens that just before the day that the deer come and go chomp. But I wouldn't have it any other way. Yeah.
Amazing. Elliot, did you want to add to that at all, or are you? Yeah, I don't know if you want to add to that one.
Oh no, I mean, I think similar, in regards to what nature allows, and the space for creativity, and for, I think, at different periods in my life, just getting able to feel more connected with myself, being particularly more alone out in those spaces. But yeah.
Amazing. Thank you. Well, it looks like we've run out of time, unfortunately. But before we go, I'd just like to say on behalf of Transgressive, Elliot, a huge thank you for taking the time out of your super busy schedule to be here and join us today. So thank you so much. I think that's a space for a virtual round of applause there. But yeah, and just before we go, again, thank you to everyone for joining today. And I believe Glenn just wants to say one final thing. Yeah.
Yeah. My final thing is, aren't you an amazing being? And thank you so much for being willing to do this interview with me.
Honored, truly honored. Thank you for asking me.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Cheers.